Welcome to the WWE Podcast, the most passionate and authentic wrestling analysis on the web. We've got you covered with every Raw, SmackDown, and NXT show, giving you a no bullshit opinion. We know you love wrestling. We do too. So let's get this show underway.
And that's the bottom line. What? Because Stone Cold said so.
Hey everybody, welcome to the WWE Podcast on this St. Patrick's Day, March 17th, 2020. You guys tired of this coronavirus thing yet? Yeah. Well, this is your show to escape from reality, I hope. From all the news that's everywhere, the constant thing that's in your face, and that is this just epidemic that is going crazy. And in the United States, it's just growing and growing and growing, and there's no end in sight. And this is the show that hopefully brings you a little bit of reprieve as we play in the sandbox of pro wrestling. And I hope that this is what this show does. Clearly, we need it. I know that myself, I got sent home from work for 2 weeks, although I'm telecommuting, so I'm technically not off. But for all intents and purposes, I'm off for 2 weeks. I mean, let's be honest. Those of you out there that are telecommuting, I would love to know the percentage of actual work that we do. I would venture to guess that it is a very low percentage, right? Unless you are a call center type of, in a call center type of position where you have to constantly be on the phone, the telecommuting thing for most of us is, I don't want to say it's a joke, but let's just say it's a much scaled down version of what we do in the office. So it's good, but it's also creating a little bit of stir crazy for us already. I know for myself, I mean, 2 weeks is probably going to be more than 2 weeks. That's just the minimum, especially if the numbers continue to climb. And I'm already getting stir crazy. It's still kind of too cold to go outside. Plus, you don't want to go anywhere for fear of, contracting the virus. Everything's closed down anyway, other than grocery stores. Malls are probably next. So it's really it's the strangest thing I've ever felt in my life as far as a something on this scale. There's 9/11, right? We've had terrorist attacks. We've had major things happen in this country, but nothing on this scale of such uncertainty, right? There's been nothing like this that I can remember ever. And the length of time, some projections are out till, Labor Day. I can't imagine that. I mean, your local businesses are likely shut down or on some kind of scaled back schedule. And that has to hurt. I mean, how can it not? Businesses still have to pay their rent. They still have to pay employees, even if they're not there, depending on the business you have, of course. But there are still expenses, big expenses, that those businesses are incurring that they rely on customers coming in, buying their stuff to offset their expenses and make a profit. And when those people aren't coming in, it becomes a hole that you continue to dig day by day for these businesses. So, I mean, do the best you can to support your local, food place, right? If you can do takeout. A lot of these are contactless type of deliveries now. Uber Eats, I know, is doing $0 for delivery fee, at least for indefinitely, until this whole thing settles down. And hell, who knows? In a week, 2 weeks, we could say, this is starting to flatten out. And maybe we're finally on the downslide here. But it could be 2 months and we're saying the same thing. We just have no idea of the magnitude of this thing. And, the problem is not a lot of people got tested in the beginning, especially here in the United States. Testing is not great. So when you do that and you figure out the percentage of people that have actually not gotten tested that are probably walking around that don't reflect in the number that have been tested, the number you see tested and positive aren't really reflective of what's probably walking around there. But just the short of it is, man, it's effing weird. I feel like a prisoner, but I know I'm not. I know I could go somewhere, but you really can't. You can't have people over because of fear of maybe they have it and you don't know and they don't know that they have it. So everyone's just kind of afraid of everyone, and it takes the human element out of your life. It takes the being around people out of your life. And I'm an introvert, so this kind of works in my favor. Like, I don't like people in general, right? I don't like being around people. I don't like talking to people. I feel kind of like Brock Lesnar in that respect. So I can absolutely relate to him just getting a farm in the middle of effing nowhere and just living out his life and being away and as far away from people as he can possibly be. So I understand that, but even introverts at some point reach a limit. The thing is, with me, I don't need to really necessarily be around people. I just want to get sometimes out of my house and go do stuff, even if it's by myself, which I love, right? But for those people that love to talk and just love to be around people just to talk about like whatever the hell they want to talk about, it's got to be even more torturous, right? I mean, there are people that I know, I mean, at my place of employment and otherwise, that just, you could sit there and you just listen to them talk and talk and talk. And it's almost as if you don't even need to be in the room for them to have a conversation. I mean, and you're giving social cues that like you're not really paying attention and they still continue to talk. I don't know if they love the sound of their own voice or they're just, their brain is wired to be that needy of people wanting to listen to them for affirmation of how good of a storyteller they are. I don't know. I mean, I've dealt with this my whole life, right? And I'm not going to get too specific on things because I have no idea who listens to this, right? No idea. So I'm going to be very, just very vague about, I'll just say in my life, that it is, I'm not a fan of people that you could just sit there and they just don't effing stop talking, right? I'm kind of the opposite. I'll give you the bare minimum, right? And I don't know. Maybe I'm the other end of the spectrum, and I just I have zero interest in like talking, giving stories, and like I don't know. Here comes the a-hole part of me, but I'm not apologetic for it. I could care less. I mean, I just want to be the hell away from people sometimes. And you say, oh wait, how are you an introvert and you do a podcast? I mean, it's all about talking. Yeah, it's all about talking with me. Me, right? I'm sitting here with my microphone, my bottle of water, my cell phone next to me. I got a notepad. I got my laptop in front of me, and it's me. And I love my co-hosts. They're awesome, and I genuinely do like them. But when I do these solo shows, it's me, right? So that's how an introvert does a podcast, because it doesn't require you to be one-on-one with somebody in person. It's not that I don't know. And people say, oh, yeah, you don't possess the social skills. No, I do. Okay. I know how to talk to people in person, whether I'm faking it or not. And here's the thing. If you know my fake laugh, we're friends. If you don't know my fake laugh, where it's just kind of like I'm laughing, but boy, this is damn painful, we truly aren't friends. Okay. If you're one of those people that holds the door for me when you're 15 feet in front of me and you think that's somehow, a nice gesture, no, that's a pain in the ass. You know why that's a pain in the ass? Because then it puts the pressure on you to run and grab the door so that they don't have to stand there and hold it any longer than they need to. Well, maybe you're the a-hole who's trying to do this because you're trying to feel good about yourself or not feel guilty about holding the door. But in reality, it's a pain in the ass for the person that is way behind you, because then they feel the need to come up. So what I've done is just basically, I've said, yeah, I'm not doing this anymore. If you want to hold the door for me and I am a stupid amount of distance behind you, I'm gonna just kind of take my time and walk, and I'm gonna make you not ever do that again. Because they're thinking in their head, Jesus, right? Come on, let's move. But I'm thinking in my head, you're the jerk for trying to make yourself feel good. It's not a gesture to me. It's a gesture to make sure you don't feel guilty about you not doing it, to try to make yourself feel like you're a nice person. Boy, this is how I think. This is something's not right with me, right? But you know what I'm talking about, right? I'm not a fan of that. Number one, if you're one of those people, we aren't friends. If you walk slow, we aren't friends. Like if you're one of those people that is basically a crawl for your normal walk, we are definitely not friends. For sure. And if you, like I said, if you hold the door, or if you don't know my fake laugh, and when I say hold the door, like I said, it has to be a stupid amount of distance behind me or in front of me. And if you don't know my fake laugh, which is about 90% of the time that I laugh, because it's just kind of like what you do socially, like I know how to fake it real well. And the thing is too, Some people will talk, and one of the bigger reasons I don't just like come up and I don't go, hey, how was your weekend? What'd you do? Here's what I did. I don't do that kind of crap. I go in, I sit my ass down, and I just get to work. I'm nice to people. I'm cordial. I will help anybody. But I don't go up to somebody and go, oh, cool. And I just stand there and I put my arm out and go, so what'd you do this weekend? No, I want a whole list. Give me everything. Some people do that. Why? Why do people do this? I don't understand. You know why? I've noticed. Because when they ask how was your weekend, it's really just an avenue or a gateway to get them to talk about what they did. Because they don't really truly care about what you did. They just want to get to let's hear what you have to say real quick. But the reason I'm really here is to talk about what I did, what's going on with me. It's all about, trust me, you know I'm right on this. That's why more people that listen have more friends, or at least are liked, more well-liked than people that are just chatterboxes. Because people that listen, or at least are perceived to be listening, are perceived to be nicer. People like other people that listen because there are so many people that just don't shut their damn mouths. So, wow, I went on a really, really big side rant here. But anyway, hey, welcome to the show. This is about wrestling because as I get into my personal life, I just I want to talk to you guys about the big part of my life, and that is wrestling, as it probably is for you, in a time that is just absolutely bizarre. This is so weird because you can't escape it. Whether you turn on your phone, you turn on TV, you can't go to bars, you can't go to gyms. Everything is just seemingly come to a grinding halt. The world has stopped, and there's not much you can do right now other than watch wrestling. And if you watch wrestling, even now, you watch empty arena wrestling. But if you want a taste of real wrestling, hey, the WWE Network is there. You can go to YouTube and watch actually, events with crowds in them that, my God, don't you notice a difference? The audience is invaluable to a wrestling show. And you know that it is, but until you actually see it in practice, you don't really truly appreciate a live audience until it's not there. As a lot of things, especially nowadays, of things that you just take for granted and aren't there, and you go, man, I miss this, I miss that, miss being able to go here, I miss that. Concerts, everything's canceled. Obviously, the big news here this past week, WWE releasing a statement that WrestleMania 36 will be taking place in the Performance Center on April 5th, as scheduled, in front of, nobody, probably. And I just can't imagine watching WrestleMania with nobody there in a small venue, like it's somebody's garage, basically. It's basically taking place in a garage with nobody there. It's not even close to the ideal situation, but it really is WWE's only option. It really is. And I know that I had predicted that WWE would probably postpone this to May or June, but the fact of the matter is, this is such a unpredictable situation. There's no end date. It's so vague. It's extremely difficult to predict when this could end, that if you were to push it out to May 5th, May 30th, whatever, June, whatever, you are really running the risk of the virus still being around. Then you have to push it out, keep pushing it out, keep pushing it out. And how are you keeping the storylines going for 2, 3, 4 months longer? You can't. And so this was really WWE's only option, outside of canceling, of course. You could have canceled the whole thing. But if you're already doing empty arena Raw and SmackDowns, what the hell? Why stop there, right? You're continuing the stories the best you can. And if you're going to have WrestleMania, this is your only way to do it. Now, if you were to have people there, the only way that I believe you could have people there, an audience there, is to either have staff members there, other wrestlers in the audience. You could have a green screen, but I think that'd be kind of cheesy. And plus, there'd be, what are you going to have a green screen of? An audience that's making no sound? And then, furthermore, you could have an actual WWE fan base there. Maybe a select 50 people. if that's the limit in a building right now, or within X amount of square footage, you can only have a certain number of people. Maybe WWE sends out a sweepstakes for 50 lucky WWE members of the universe who can win a trip to WrestleMania. It's only 50 fans, all expenses paid, to WWE in Orlando at the Performance Center. But the caveat is that you have to provide proof within, say, 2 days of the event that you are negative for coronavirus. Right? I mean, that'd be the only way for WWE to safely have fans there and do it in a legal way with the 50 minimum or 50 maximum number of people in the building. And you would be able to prove that they did not have and were tested for the coronavirus within 48 hours of the event. Or maybe 24 hours of the event, if you want to push it even further. But, I mean, I don't know how feasible that is. I'm probably talking out my ass. But to get fans there, that'd be the only way to do it. And I mean, if there's a way to do it, I would get it done if I was WWE. You'd have 50 people there. And just some kind of crowd interaction, something. Have fans surrounding the, have them ringside. Have them ringside scattered. You can make 50 people look like more than 50 people if you angle it right. The camera angles are right. I mean, so, I don't know. I mean, it's just a thought of a way, because I am desperate for fans to be in the arena. Desperate. It's painful to watch. It's painful. And I'm not putting this on WWE. I give them credit for putting on the show and sticking to their golden rule, Vince's golden rule of the show must go on. They did it when Owen Hart died. They continued the actual show. They had a match after Owen Hart died in the ring. They had an event 2 days after 9/11 on SmackDown. I believe it was Houston, Texas. 2 days after, they were the first gathering of that size to occur after 9/11. And they're continuing their belief now that the show must go on. And they're going whether there are people there or not, and I give them as much credit as I can, because this is not easy. This is not the fault of WWE. They are continuing to put out original content. I give them credit for that, and I'm sure that the thinking is, well, the fans need us now more than ever. And I believe that, because I'm glad they're doing this. As painful as it is to watch, I appreciate them pushing out content every week and continuing on schedule. I do appreciate that, because we need something from the distraction of what's going on is so overwhelming. It's so consuming. It's so saturated everywhere we go, everywhere we look. The coronavirus, the numbers, the deaths, the spread, the press conferences from your governor, the press conferences from Trump, whatever. It's just every freaking place you look. And I'm glad that WWE is continuing to do this. And yes, while you're watching, you're reminded of what's going on, because you don't see anybody there and you're like, oh yeah, this effing virus is the reason people aren't here. But you occasionally do get lost. You have a distraction. Your brain goes somewhere else when you watch wrestling. And so I appreciate WWE for what they're doing. And I think that the first crowd back in a live arena, wherever or whenever that may be, as Shakira would say, whenever, wherever. Boy, I'm dating myself. That's like 2001, 2002. Jeez. But whenever or wherever that is, that crowd is going to light up the building, I would imagine. I mean, it's going to be, I think, an explosion, just as I think everything else will be. I think that your local bars are going to be packed again. Your restaurants, they're getting cabin fever as it is this time of year. You add basically a quarantine yourself restriction for months. People are going to lose their minds. So WWE right now believes that they should continue on. We need them. They know that we need them as a distraction. And as much as this hurts them financially, the city of Tampa financially, tens of thousands of fans are disappointed, and I understand why. It is the right move. It's the best move they could make. And yes, it's a hard move. Everything right now is difficult. Everything. Because no matter who you are, what you're doing, what your profession is, you've been affected in some way. Every single person has been affected in some way, shape, or form by this pandemic, right? So pro wrestling is where we go to escape. Pro wrestling is a place that we go to maybe take our mind off of what the hell's going on in our daily lives, and now that's more relevant than ever. So I think WWE will continue to pump out these shows at the Performance Center in every week, and NXT will probably be no different. And I appreciate that. As much as we all say they need to stop it, what do you expect them to do, right? The alternative is that they shut themselves down, right? They say, we're cutting our, everything's going to stop until we can fill arenas again. But the problem with that is you have no idea how long it's going to be, number one, right? And that means you're not filling your time on Fox, which means you're not getting sponsors, which means you're hurting our sponsorship dollars, which means you're hurting your bottom line more than it's already going to be hurt with the WrestleMania relocating and no fan attendance, which means no ticket sales, which means no merchandise, which means the city of Tampa is going to be hurting on top of it. We all know that. And those that make money off of WrestleMania, those that rely on WrestleMania every year, right? Local indie promotions that run and piggyback off of WrestleMania. I went to one in Orlando, right? 3 years ago, that they rely on the fan interjection into that particular city to come to their event because they know that they love wrestling and they're going to have the largest conglomeration of wrestling fans in a single area all year. Why wouldn't you take advantage of it? So it's not just WWE because their bottom line will be fine. They're not going bankrupt. I'm not worried about WWE themselves. I feel bad for the smaller promotions that are getting hit even harder because they rely on WrestleMania every year. So this is a very strange time, very bizarre. But the bottom line is I appreciate WWE for at least continuing to pump out original content, and it's going to make us more appreciative of when we get back to normal, because apparently this is our new norm for a while, that we have fans there in attendance and that they're there feeding the energy of the show. It is sorely missed. Sorely missed. So let's get into Monday Night Raw, though. And I have to start at the top here. I'm going to start with, let me start with Stone Cold Steve Austin. I'm the biggest Stone Cold Steve Austin fan you'll ever find. Truly. He was the reason I got into wrestling. He was really influential in my life. That sounds silly, right? It sounds silly because, fictional character, no. But his character on wrestling shows from, my God, when he started getting really hot in late 97, 98, 99, of course, through his career-ending 2003 match with Rock at WrestleMania 19, and even beyond that, as the sheriff and the co-general manager and occasional appearances at WrestleMania just to deliver some stunners. I connected with the character on a very deep level, right? So on Monday night, he comes out and they were heavily hyping the 316 day. WWE has been hyping the 316 day for a couple of weeks now. They put it on WWE.com with the best stunners, which means, where somebody's getting stunned, we just don't know who. And they were selling merchandise the best they could, right? They were really pumping 316 day. Really, really, really pumping it as high and as hard as they could. And you just were wondering, who's it going to be that gets stunned? So Austin comes out and has cue cards about what 316 day is. Some of it was funny, some of it was weird. And hearing the glass crash with nobody there, that was painful. I was not. It was worse and harder than I thought it would be. It was hard, and hearing nobody there, seeing nobody there. He's on the ring, in all four corners for no reason. That was rough. So Austin comes out and had, talking about what 316 day means, including 4-letter words being acceptable, that you can whip anybody's ass and get away with it. And throughout this, Byron Saxton brought basically, he was playing the judge with numbers, grading each bullet point Austin had about what 316 Day meant. And Austin said, I mean, seriously, like 5 or 6 times, "Oh, tough crowd." I mean, that's really his go-to line. That's the only line he ever, I mean, he said it like 4 or 5 times. It was kind of weird. But eventually invited Byron into the ring, toasted with him, and then dropped him with a stunner. And then we had Becky Lynch come out and drink with Austin. She comes out with a cooler of beer and Austin said to her, "The last time we were in this ring together, you dropped me with a stunner." And I think that happened on like Broken Skull, one of Austin's side shows. I can't remember what show it was, but that's true. And it wasn't on SmackDown or Raw. It was on, again, one of the side shows. I just can't remember the name of it. But I thought, Becky was going to do it again. And if she had done it again, I would have been on here ranting my ass off. I don't need Becky Lynch dropping Stone Cold Steve Austin on the show. I wouldn't even I don't like that Austin even brought it up. That Becky Lynch drops Stone Cold Steve Austin with a stunner. You're the best and greatest of all time gets dropped by a stunner. I would have, and I'm getting myself riled up thinking about that happening on Raw, and it didn't, thank God. Would I have liked Austin to return the favor? Yeah. I would have loved to have seen him stun Becky Lynch. But obviously you can't go that road with the path that Becky's on with Shayna Baszler. And I'll get to her promo in a minute too. But Austin comes out and toasts, and they all drink beer, and it guzzles it. He drinks about 10% of it. The rest of it goes down his body. And it's a hilarious visual. I love it. It's great. But transparently trying to get the rub from Becky off of Austin tells me that they're not trying to turn Becky Lynch heel. I don't think that's the case, and that's unfortunate. I think Becky is due for a heel turn. I think she's been ready for a heel turn for quite some time. I mean, Becky Lynch shows up in a Mack truck, right? In a big rig, and it has her face blasted on it. And the cameras happen to see her coming at every perfect angle. I mean, Becky Lynch, for some time now, has really been an arrogant, annoying character. With the goat shirts and jackets to now, or she had the Thug Life sunglasses for a while. And now she has a Mack truck with her face plastered on it. And yeah, someone's out there is going to say, well, that's what Stone Cold did. He brought in a monster truck and ran over the rocks. Lincoln Continental. I remember that. Austin drove a Zamboni, which didn't have his face plastered on it, by the way. Yeah, he did. That fit his character. He was literally a redneck from South Texas. He would be into monster trucks. I don't see Becky Lynch getting into big rigs, right? And Mack trucks. Makes no sense. I just wasn't a big fan of that. That's the kind of arrogance that is a huge turnoff for me on the Becky Lynch character, at least from a babyface perspective. You want to turn her heel? Hey, where do I sign? I'm ready for a heel turn by Becky. I just don't think we're going to get it based on the cue that we got this past Monday with her and Austin, and she's trying to basically... Because people have been running parallels from her being the female version of Stone Cold forever. And then Austin drops Saxton for one more stunner for good measure. So that's always fun. And Byron Saxton, I will say, is a great natural heel. I've always thought that. Right from the beginning with him on commentary, which I blasted him on commentary. But I think over time he has definitely grown. I appreciate the work he's put in as a commentator. It's shown. I think he's been a very big asset to Raw. Very big asset to Raw. I think he is more valuable than the King right now in commentary. I think it could just be him and Tom Phillips, and you'd call it a day. I really don't know if I need Jerry the King Lawler on commentary. I just not at this stage in his career with how he's produced. So Byron could be a great heel if he wanted to be a great heel manager. And it was awesome to see Austin drop him with a couple of stunners, because I've imagined that happening since I've seen his face on Raw. Sometimes he's got a very punchable face. That's a compliment. He's got a punchable face because he thinks he's like the pretty boy in school that thinks he's better than you. He's like your intellectual superior. That's what he believes. and you just want someone to come along and slap the lips off his face. And he just has that about him. And having Austin come in and drop him, I mean, that's just great stuff, right? Living vicariously is what Austin made his career out of. You live vicariously through Stone Cold. I mean, my God, Austin McMahon. Everyone wants to beat up their boss. Most people. I mean, that's just right. I mean, not everybody, but you get the drift. So, I mean, it was a good segment. Anytime you see stunners and beer, it's a good segment, regardless even of how weird the circumstances may be. The only thing I was disappointed in, outside of kind of the awkwardness of it, I mean, it was just awkward. Austin's character is so built around crowd interaction and crowd reception, and the loudness and the energy that it brings to the crowd brings to Stone Cold's character. Outside of that, awkwardness and sometimes awkwardness between Byron and Austin, and it was just weird overall. We didn't get any clues as to what he's doing at WrestleMania, if he's involved at WrestleMania at all. So I was hoping, with 8 minutes left, 8 minutes and 41 seconds, I looked, to go in the show, that there'd be some kind of big angle. Even if we got just kind of the ceremonious stunner, somebody, a heel that can take it, like Byron, that there would be something bigger, something better. And you'd see Seth Rollins come out and run down Stone Cold and have it transform into Kevin Owens coming out. And you have, Kevin saying, you said I could name the stipulation. Austin, I want you the referee at WrestleMania. I mean, I just thought that's what we'd get, and we didn't get that. So I don't know if Austin's going to be involved at WrestleMania at all. And, I guess as an Austin fan, I'm a bit disappointed. But I understand if he's not involved. You would just think that with him being this close to WrestleMania, that WWE would capitalize on that and say, hey, you want to be a part of Mania? And be just a guest referee in that ring with Rollins and Owens. And maybe we'll still get that. But anyway, moving on to the next segment in my brain, the next big segment, Undertaker, AJ, and the OC. This was supposed to be the contract signing. And yeah, we got the contract signed. And after everything that AJ said last week, running down Michelle McCool, saying basically that she runs the show, but she's also trying to run him into the ground, and AJ's going to help her, and that he's a broken down old man, and refers to him as Mark. And we got Undertaker out there, basically looking like the American Badass. Didn't have a do-rag on, he wasn't Big Evil, but he was a 2020 version of the American Badass. Didn't say a word, and stood there pacing because AJ and the OC were back on the screen and backstage. And I really I'll get to the Undertaker's look in a second too. But what AJ had to say, I thought was a big asset to this program. I had said, after Super Showdown, after Elimination Chamber, of Undertaker just easily handling AJ with a single choke slam, that this program, if they go through to it at WrestleMania, is already dead in the water because they've already blown it off. I mean, you've seen AJ get choke slammed. He was handled easily, and that they're going to have to do a lot of work if they want to bring this back to life and resurrect it, no pun intended. And they certainly have. I think that this is honestly the best thing that AJ's done in 6 months. I really believe that AJ Styles is doing the best work he's done in quite some time. His promos were... I know that I've seen some bad grades. I mean, I look at CBS and CBS Sports review of this, and Bleacher Report and others, and they gave this, a C grade. I actually enjoyed AJ Styles' promo here. And I see why they gave it a C for other reasons, which I'll get to. But AJ felt very cocky. It's very... cowardly for him to be backstage talking tough. And one of the great lines was that, not just him saying that Undertaker's a shell of his former self, but that he offered to pay for his assisted living facility after WrestleMania. That's hilarious. Heelish. It's funny, which I know that heels aren't supposed to be funny, but we all look at Undertaker as kind of a broken down old man, so unfortunately there's a little bit of truth there. And sometimes being a heel, giving the hard truth, is sometimes better than flat out lies. And AJ Styles, I think right here, he hit a sweet spot. he hit the sweet spot of being arrogant, being a coward backstage, not having the balls to be out in the ring with Undertaker signing a contract, and then taking digs at his age, and that he's going to pay for his assisted living. I mean, seriously, it was funny. It was funny, but it still makes you want to see Undertaker beat him down. So this to me was mission accomplished. Eventually, AJ had Gallows and Anderson come out to the ring to deliver the contract, of which they just kind of tossed it in the ring and stepped back. And then the gong went off, and Undertaker went from the ring to behind them and then delivered a beat down on both men, signed the contract, and walked out. Now, that was, to me, it accomplished what it needed to accomplish. However, I would have liked to have seen Undertaker give some kind of verbal rebuttal to what AJ had to say, and not just use the physical part of his presentation to deliver a message. I need an actual verbal message from the Undertaker, given what AJ Styles had said about him last week, and really this week as well, and talked about his wife. Yeah, the facials were good from Taker, no question. He was pacing in the ring like a caged animal. So I get all of that, but I need to hear something from Undertaker or Mark or whoever wants to come out. Is this the 2020 version of the American Badass? I mean, based on his attire, you would say yes. He still used the gong. It still went dark, so you could say, well, no, it's still the Dead Man. It was kind of like an informal Dead Man. It was kind of like, I guess, a mix of both, given his hairstyle, which, oh boy. I mean, I know that Undertaker's aging. I know that as we get older, hair becomes a problem, right? We become, whether it's hair recession, your hairline recedes, and that's seriously a big problem for the Undertaker from a visual perspective, which I'm sure he knows. Everyone knows. And I know that back in the day, he had the hair braided back look, and it looked cool, but he didn't have the hairline halfway up his head. He just didn't, and it's a weird look. Just keep the long hair, cover as much as you can like Dean Ambrose did. Don't slick it back, because when you slick it back, it enhances the hairline, where it begins, right? It highlights where your hairline is on your head. So Taker, please, don't braid it back. It makes you look super old. Please. And, whatever. I'm still for Undertaker AJ. I still think they'll pull out a decent match, especially with AJ at the other end of the ring, doing the heavy lifting and making Mark look like $1 million, or as best as he can anyway. And AJ carrying the load for this match is the guy you want in place. So, was it a weird segment? I don't know if it was weird. I mean, seeing Undertaker in that state, I don't know why he had to come out with like his tank top down already and his hair braided back. That wasn't a great look. If he had the do-rag on, I'd be cool with it. I mean, a do-rag at this age covering the hairline would make sense. So, I don't know. Just a thought. Alrighty, so moving on, though, to another segment, Edge kicking off Raw. Apparently, he drove 17 hours to get here just to deliver this message. I thought it was good. It was weird again with nobody there and Edge coming out. I really missed the crowd interaction. Boy, do I miss it. So Randy talked about his connection with Orton. Or I'm sorry, Edge talked about his connection with Orton. About growing and evolving, and that one person that they had in common that helped both of them in their careers was Mick Foley. But the one thing that Foley taught him that he didn't teach Randy was grit. Something that Randy never learned. He said that this isn't love. You don't love me, Randy. You're jealous because you can't do what I do, and it tears you apart. Talking about his comeback and referencing, obviously being away for 9 years. And he challenged Orton to a last man standing match at WrestleMania. I'm fine with there's a couple layers to this. Number one, starting backwards, I'm good with the last man standing match at WrestleMania. Sometimes it's more satisfying to see a babyface pin a heel, 1, 2, 3. But given the violent nature of this program, you kind of have to start at third base. You can't start at home plate and run to first. meaning you can't start with a singles match. A normal wrestling match wouldn't have made sense. I actually advocated for, and maybe going a little extreme, Hell in a Cell with these two because I think it's deserving. But they went a level below and went to the last man standing match. I like it. I think that is a match that fits this program. I think it's a match that you could tell a great story with, being violent. I think this has the potential to be very good. It also has the potential for Randy Orton to escape and actually get the victory over Edge. And I wouldn't put it past Randy to take the victory here. I know everyone's thinking it's going to be a feel-good Edge retaliation, beat the holy hell and incapacitate and put Randy in the hospital type of night, and it probably will be, but I would not put Randy Orton past your thinking that he could actually pick up the victory here and put more heat on himself. I really think it's a possibility, given that you could have somebody on Randy's behalf interfere and cost Edge the match. Be careful with these last man standing matches. Just be very, very careful. Babyfaces don't have a great history and record with this match. They just don't. So, anyway, but we'll get to WrestleMania predictions as we get closer to Mania. We still have 2 more Monday Night Raws before we get to WrestleMania. Am I right on that? Let me look. If I can do math. We have the 23rd, obviously, and then March 30th. So 2 more Raws and then Mania. So there's things you can do here. And it's interesting to see. I guess Randy will be on Monday Night Raw next Monday night, along with Brock Lesnar. So you can continue that program here as well. And so I like this program. I think Edge cut a good promo. Again, crowd interaction, a lack of, is really hurting. It hurts so bad. He talked about how, and this is, I guess, the one thing, right? I always have to critique, because I think some of these things are massively avoidable. Edge talks about how Beth was actually there to announce Edge's retirement again, because he didn't want to have to do it again, and she was going to do it for him. Really? So Edge doesn't have the grit that he just said he had to come out and announce his second retirement. So he has his wife do it? Because he can't handle it, but he's got grit? And then, why would he retire? Why would he retire? I mean, this doesn't make sense. If Edge says he was going to retire a second time, right? Because, and there's still been no medical update to this. There's been still no medical side to this of like, yeah, his neck was surgically repaired, but the surgeons looked at it. There's been no permanent damage, just some swelling. He'll be good to go. Nothing. So if Edge is saying that he was ready to retire 2 weeks ago, then what is he doing here? Clearly he's medically okay to go. Otherwise, you would have retired. Again, do you see what I'm saying? That whole thing, that made no sense to me to say that Beth was there to tell the audience he was going to retire permanently. None. Then all of a sudden he RKO's Beth. Randy RKO's Beth Phoenix, and then all of a sudden Edge is like, "Oh, well, no, I'm not going to retire." So that tells me that you were retiring for another reason other than the fact that you physically couldn't go anymore. Otherwise, you wouldn't be there a week later to try to exact your revenge on Randy. Am I missing something? It just made no sense. But nonetheless, it was still a good promo. I always love Edge. I mean, I'm not gonna knock this other than that one, or really a couple things. But I mean, I have to talk about it. I'm not just gonna give them a pass on that. That logic was very flawed. But good promo by Edge. And let me know what you guys think, by the way, which you can do at the WWE Podcast on Twitter, and you can get an ad-free version of the show too at my gosh, I can't remember. Patreon.com/WWE Podcast is where you can get your ad-free version of this show. So I hope you take advantage of that, and please rate and review us on iTunes, or not iTunes, Apple Podcasts. iTunes went away like 6 months ago or more. So anywhere you can find a rating and review system, it really helps us out. I know some of you love us, some of you hate us. It is what it is. I mean, it's what it is. You can go read the reviews for yourself. There are some people that, boy, they hate us. That's cool. That's whatever. I really don't care. It's just people being on the internet. That's all it is. So the next thing on Raw here, we had a match here, a non-title match. Really, it was the only wrestling match of the show. Rey Mysterio versus Andrade. I mean, you can't go wrong with this. It's basically a flawless matchup with these two. I mean, you can't go wrong. And having this match on Raw, it was quick. It was a very matter-of-fact victory for Rey Mysterio, hitting the 619 and then doing the victory, doing the splash off the top rope for the victory. And it was, I mean, again, I don't know what to make of this, other than there's going to be some kind of Angel Garza, Rey Mysterio, Humberto Carrillo, Andrade, fatal 4-way, or tag team match for the United States Championship. Well, it can't be a tag team match for the U.S. title, but fatal 4-way. I mean, just go that way. Tell us next week. Let's just stop all the suspense, right? So that'll be fun to watch. And having Zelina there, I mean, the visual of her is always nice. Yeah, she's an insanely beautiful woman, but she's also got a great presence. I've mentioned that many times on this show. And the other little caveat to this, the other fly in the ointment, was having Asuka on commentary. Why? Did they have her plans for her and then decided, oh, crap, Asuka, listen, we were going to have you do something to talk about the women's tag team titles that you're holding so you can build a feud between you and Kairi Sane versus Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross. But we're going to scrap that, and sorry we had to travel all this way, but we'll stick you on commentary in a random match. I mean, so to at least make it worth it. That's what it felt like. It felt very, oh, we don't have any plans, or whoops, sorry, we changed plans, Asuka. So here, go on commentary and just start screaming and being a cartoon, which is what Asuka does. She is a living, walking, breathing cartoon. And I don't know, I've said this before, but I don't know if it's actually a positive. I don't know. There are times when I can't stand her, and it's embarrassing. And there's other times I'm enthralled by her, just her movements and gestures and insane range of vocals and why are you yelling and what are you saying? It's almost embarrassingly charming. Is that a thing? Can you be embarrassingly charming? That's what I feel like when I watch Asuka. I don't know. So Mysterio picks up the victory. It really wasn't anything to write home about. We also got a couple more things here I want to talk about. Is Becky Lynch, and not just her, her entrance. That's the way to make an entrance. Just have WWE spend a few $100,000 on this custom painted semi. Yeah, that's the way you make an entrance. But anyway, she came into the arena and she says that she's ready to face or address Shayna Baszler. And she said the idea of her drives Baszler mad because the Queen of Spades has bullied her way to the top for so long. She said that Becky was the one woman who was tired of being hunted and turned it around on those who preyed on her. And she vowed to beat Baszler and retain. I thought this was a very good promo by Becky Lynch. It felt authentic. I liked that. I liked her pacing. I liked Baszler watching backstage. I like how Becky said that she is only showing and saying things that she's saying on purpose to twist the mind of Shayna to how she wants Shayna to perceive her. It's this big mind game, and I like it. I think it's a great way to get inside the head of Shayna Baszler, and it really, I think this, to me, gives me a little bit more confidence that Becky may retain at WrestleMania. And I know some of you may say, let's move on. Let's get somebody else in the throne. But number one, beyond Shayna Baszler, who the hell is actually up to par of Becky Lynch, right? I mean, it's either Shayna or nobody. I mean, you can have Ronda Rousey return. There's been rumors of that forever. And apparently Vince McMahon was furious over the photo of her and Cain Velasquez being posted to Twitter that they were at WWE headquarters a week or two ago. So that tells you something. So Ronda Rousey could make her return, could do it at WrestleMania in the Performance Center with no crowd, no fan response. Maybe they can even like virtually include fans. Is there a way to, virtually, I don't know how you would do it, but if there were like large gathering parties, if WWE were to select certain, like, I can't even say bars, you can't even say big gathering areas, the people that have to be individually at home with their own WrestleMania parties, I don't know. I'm just trying to think of creative ways to get crowd interaction with this, but I don't know. So I have growing confidence that Becky Lynch could retain at WrestleMania. And I'm just very interested to see, and I would have loved to have heard the crowd reaction with these two, and the same crowd reaction, not to change topics too abruptly, but with Roman Reigns and Goldberg, to hear what the fans would have done. And I said on Twitter that there is nobody on the roster of WWE that is that is breathing a bigger sigh of relief than Roman Reigns and Goldberg. They are collectively giving the biggest sigh in the history of WWE sighs, that they don't have to worry about the crowd completely turning on this match, burying it, putting the dirt on it, and putting a tombstone and walking away. I mean, because I think there was that real possibility that the audience would have just said, F this. We don't like Roman. We know what you're trying to do, but we also don't want Goldberg champion. This is a lose-lose. Screw you guys. Boo. I mean, that was a true possibility. And now, this is heaven sent for Roman Reigns. Really. I mean, even more than Goldberg. This is a blessing from the gods of wrestling. And honestly, Roman Reigns has been saved by something like this before. Back in 2015, when Roman Reigns won the Royal Rumble and the crowd booed the holy hell out of him, what happened to Monday Night Raw after? It was the infamous snowed-in Raw. Boy, would I have loved to have heard the crowd reaction of Roman Reigns the next night on Raw. And we didn't get it because of the huge snowstorm that hit the next Monday night. So Roman Reigns, by hook or crook, is getting gifts from wrestling gods, not JBL, but actual wrestling gods that are just the stars align for when Roman Reigns could, get booed to hell. Circumstances beyond, our control are happening. So yeah, you're welcome, Roman Reigns, and you're a lucky SOB. So the last segment I wanted to talk about on Raw, because this was the only other thing that happened, at least to my knowledge, outside of video packages and, the entire Royal Rumble being a part of Raw. And to quickly comment on that, I know people are like, oh my God, we've seen this. Why are they doing this for Raw? Oh my God. They have 3 hours to fill, right? Why wouldn't you include a 60-minute Royal Rumble to kill an hour of the show? Actually, I believe, was Raw only 2 hours? I think it might have been only 2 hours. I have to look. But if it was the full 3 hours, regardless, you want to kill as much time as you can without having to do too many awkward segments with no live audience. It's almost as if WWE is just hitting their main storylines. Doing a pay-per-view match to kill 40 to 60 minutes and closing the show with a live segment. I mean, and I'm fine with that formula. I don't blame them one iota. I totally would understand. I would do the same damn thing. I know some people love it, some people hate it, but if you're producing that much content, I don't want to see, and it actually makes you feel better to see a live audience reacting to wrestling. And the Royal Rumble was a good match to show because it showcased Drew McIntyre and Brock Lesnar, which that'll progress next week on Raw with both men in the building. And also it progressed and reminded you about Edge's return because that happened at the Rumble. One of the best Rumbles in, my God, 10, 15 years. I mean, it was critically acclaimed. I mean, I haven't heard many people complain about that Royal Rumble. So a good choice, and I think that's going to be the format moving forward until further notice. Until this ban is lifted and we can all conglomerate again and no one's going to get cooties. That's the case. This is what's going to happen. This is our lives now as wrestling fans. Is empty arenas. We're going to get a repeat match of some decent-sized length to kill time, and I would too, and then back to live segments, and hopefully it's not too painful, and maybe we'll get used to it. So that was just something else I wanted to touch on. But Roman Reigns, Kevin Owens, in his promo, issued a challenge to Seth Rollins at WrestleMania. And he talked about the history of the facility, the wealth of knowledge he gathered there, and said that he's going to add another memory to the venue, or of the venue, by defeating the Monday Night Messiah at the Performance Center. This was a good promo by Kevin Owens. Might have been the best one that he's delivered so far to Seth Rollins, as it seems on a regular basis to be very cyclical, that Kevin Owens just gets beat down. He'll get one night of retaliation, then beat down. So it was a nice change of pace to hear from Kevin Owens on a more serious level, and on honestly a more empathetic level, where you remembered what Kevin Owens came from, what people said about him, that he'll never make it, and that he's finally here, and that Seth was the one that said, I don't know if he's a WWE guy, I don't know if he'll make it here in WWE, and now in the Performance Center, these two will be facing one another in a match, and so I'm looking forward to it. That was a good promo by Kevin Owens. It was just solid, it was engaging, it was emotional at times, and it did exactly what it needed to do, and I thought it was a very, very solid promo. And again, I think WWE is doing overall the best damn job they possibly can with this. I applauded WWE at the beginning of the show. I will continue to applaud them for rolling out original content in a time that we all need it. There has never been a time in the last, since 9/11, that we have needed more distraction from what's going on in the world than right now. And WWE is that platform. They are that medium. That is what they are. They are a distraction from life. That's why we watch any TV show. That's why I watch any movie. That's why we play any video game. Is to get away from daily life, to forget about what the real world is doing, and to just immerse yourself into a world that doesn't matter, that has no consequence. It's like dreaming. In your dreams, there's zero consequences. You can do anything you want. Anything. And there are absolutely no consequences. This is a way in real life to dream and escape from your reality of the tough situation that we're all dealing with, and immerse yourself in a fantasy land. And so I think WWE, and I'm sure Vince would agree, that now more than ever we need WWE. So it's going to be weird. It'll continue to be weird. It's going to be a bizarre few months, probably few months, as crazy as that may be. But in the end, this, I think we'll all be better for it, and I think that we'll appreciate the live audience a whole hell of a lot more, and our normal lives before all this happened. With bars open, gyms open, concerts back, especially with summer coming up, all the concerts in summer, my God. The wrestling events leading into, the next big one would be SummerSlam. So this is going to be a very, very unique year. 2020 will be a year that we never, ever forget. Ever. Never. You'll always remember what it was like to live through this. The uncertainty, the fear, the panic. People going out and buying toilet paper in droves, hand sanitizer, punching each other and getting, yelling at each other over just insignificant things that are out of fear, right? It's silly. But it's WWE is a way to dream, and it's with no consequence. You can watch it and immerse yourself, and I think that we need this now more than we ever have. And I don't know about you guys, and this is a very, very weird side note. I'm on a weird vibe lately, right? All of us, everything just feels very weird. That, do you ever know that you can dream? Like when you're dreaming, have you ever been conscious that you're dreaming? It's called lucid dreaming. Like when you're in a dream, you're aware that you're dreaming. That's basically the gist of it. Has anybody else have that, or not just once, but on a somewhat regular basis? I've noticed that I lucid dream more often than not if I wake up, say like 4, 5, 6 o'clock, and then I go back to sleep. I will 9 times out of 10, that'll be a lucid dream. Versus if I just go to sleep my normal time and I have my normal dreams at like, whatever the hell time, 1, 2 o'clock in the morning. It doesn't happen as often. But whenever you're, at least that's the formula that's worked for me. I wake up and then go back to sleep and then I'm aware, I'm like, I'm in a dream. But I've noticed, outside of how it actually happens for me, which again, it's just going to sleep the second time, that it's very hard to control yourself in the dream. Even though you're dreaming and you can create anything and do anything, you actually still can't. You can't. It's hard. Because if you all of a sudden are conscious that you're dreaming, you have to focus on not trying to wake up. Because your brain will automatically try to wake itself up, and then all of a sudden you're awake and it's like, I can't believe I'm like discussing this with you guys. It's like so bizarre, right? But it's been a very bizarre week. But if you're in a lucid dream, the key, if you're in a lucid dream, is to, whatever the heck you're doing, stand there and like just focus on one thing. Whatever, I don't know if there's an object in your dream, whatever, focus on that one thing and focus on it as hard as you can. And it'll make everything else kind of fall into place. And it won't take you out of the dream as quickly. Because if you start to slack off and your conscious brain is like, hey, wait a minute, this isn't real, we need to wake you up. That part of you will take over if you don't focus on the dream itself and try to teach your brain to focus on the dream. And just keep yourself there. Because your conscious is like, panic, hey, wake up, this isn't real. It's a very bizarre thing that happens with your brain. But it's awesome. And this doesn't happen often, even if I'm in a lucid dream, to be able to control and create things that you want, it's not easy. Sometimes my brain goes rogue, even though I know it's a dream and I'm in one. It's like I'm a slave to my brain sometimes. It's like I'm trapped. And sometimes I'll wake up in a paralyzed sleep, right? You ever have that? You ever have that where you're laying there and you woke up, but you can't move? All you can do is look around. And you can't move for anything, even if someone, the house was on fire, you'd be screwed. I don't know. That happens to me occasionally too. It's frightening, but it's also really relaxing because your body's in a total REM sleep, but your eyes are awake. I don't know. Maybe I need to get like some kind of sleep test done, or maybe I need to see a psychologist. I don't know. Maybe some of you are like, what the hell is he talking about? What is he talking about? He's talking about lucid dreaming. He's paralyzed. Well, sleep paralysis is a real thing, but I don't know. I guess I'm just going off the deep end here with just topics that are coming to my head as I'm, trying to escape reality. So anyway, guys, thank you so much for listening in my bizarre discussion that I never planned, talking about lucid dreaming and sleep paralysis. But I hope you guys enjoyed this. You can follow me on Twitter at the WWE Podcast. Please give us a subscription on any podcast app that you listen to us on, and a review. It really, really helps us out. And we will be back, guys. This show's going nowhere throughout this entire crisis, I guess you'd call it, pandemic, whatever panic word you want to use. We'll be here discussing wrestling. As long as there's shows, we will continue to review them. Even if everything stopped cold, we would still be here. Our schedule is going to continue. Tomorrow will be a wrestling nostalgia show, and boy, do we need that. And it'll be, I promise, a nostalgia show that actually has crowd interaction in it. So we'll get sound bites. We'll live through it together. I haven't quite landed on a topic yet, but it'll strike me. I've got a few things narrowed down. But if you have suggestions, of course, hit me up at WWE Podcast, the WWE Podcast on Twitter. By the way, you can also send me your voicemails if you want your voice on this show and answer your question or just get your comment on the show. Send your voicemail, which is really just a voice memo you create on your phone, to realwwepodcast@gmail.com. And I'll get your voice on the show, and I can respond to you in real time. But yeah, so the Wrestling Nostalgia is coming tomorrow. And then AEW Review, they're doing a live show with no audience, which is what my hunch was, and that's what looks like it's going to happen. And then NXT Review as well. I mean, this is not stopping just because the world stopped. This is my damn show, and I make the calls, and we aren't stopping regardless of what happens. And then, of course, Sunday will be your weekend review. I sometimes do Saturdays, but Sunday's been more of the day where I'm bringing on a co-host. Mary Grader's coming on this week, and we're going to discuss everything that is this week in WWE. And boy, it's weird, right? It is a weird, weird time. So, guys, thank you so much for listening and making the show a success, because it is continuing to grow because of you. Not really me. I mean, yeah, I created the show and it was my brainchild, but it goes nowhere without you guys. You can have the best idea in the world, but if you have no support, it's going nowhere. So that's all thanks to you and the listeners for making this what it is. So thank you guys for listening. Try to get yourself distracted. Get your ass out there. Take a walk. Watch some, mindless TV if you need to. Hang out with a friend. By the way, you can order beer, right? Restaurants are doing takeout alcoholic beverages. Well, I just changed somebody's life, didn't I? Yeah, they're like Applebee's and Chili's. I know around here they're doing takeout alcoholic drinks. Someone will deliver this to you. Like, you can order a margarita and someone will deliver it to you. So, like I said, I'm sure that somebody right now is going, wait, what? Yeah, I know. I just probably changed your whole night. So you're welcome. But, so anyway, just do something. Get out of the house, right? We feel prisoners, like we're prisoners now, but do something. Do something. I know we're all going to go stir crazy and it's just going to get worse. So, I don't know, check out a neighbor, get out, do something fun to the best of your ability. Of course, stay safe, but, we'll all get through this insane time together and look back and go, man, remember that? That was wild. And we'll all remember this. That's for damn sure. So, guys, thank you so much for listening. As always, I'll talk to you next time.
Thanks for listening to the WWE Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe on your favorite podcast app so you don't miss a show, or head to WWEpodcast.com. And for all of these shows ad-free, head over to patreon.com/WWE Podcast. Until then, we'll see you next time.